Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Comics Morte, episode 122. And we're talking about SWAT. I wasn't sure Rachel was going to be here, but we got Justin Coke.
Hi.
Glad to have you on the show. And before we get into the comic and everything and what it's all about and the typical questions I ask on the show, what was the first comic book that you ever read that you're like, wow, I really love this media and I can't get more of it?
Well, I was kind of you remember those Archie comics they used to sell at the grocery store?
Yeah, I mean, my first comics I got at a 7-Eleven, so it was even
Yeah,
at a comic
I
book
read a lot
store.
of those kind of, I mean, as a very young kid, but
Mhm.
I mean, that would probably be my first like comic that I read pretty regularly would be Archie. The Sunday news news page was a big thing for me as well.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was very
Garfield.
open back then, but I
Mhm.
didn't know yet. Uh,
Gotcha.
I don't. But Sandman was probably the first like series where I was like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, I think Sandman would probably be the safest answer there. Yeah.
Awesome. And at what age did you like some people they didn't decide to do it later on? Early on when you were a kid after you did it, did you start writing or drawing your own stories afterwards?
I wrote novels I wrote fiction for a very long time. I started
Mhm.
doing comics when I was 40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Uh, a lot of things changed, and I'd wanted to write comics for a long time, but
Mhm.
I was too cheap to pay an artist, and I can't draw, so
Gotcha.
it was just it kind of never quite. But I just had this moment of I finally just started doing it, and it was awesome, and I loved it, and I'm
Mhm.
like pretty good at it. So yeah, it's been a great fit. I wish I'd started doing it a lot earlier.
Yeah.
You know,
And the typical question I ask like people, because I know a lot of people I've had on the show, some of their comics that they wrote in the beginning, they had plans to do it as like a more like a film or a novel. In your case, since you started out doing like the novels and stuff, was it hard for you to transition from a novel to the comic? Because, you could add only so much dialogue to a panel where it's taken away from the artwork.
that that was I mean my first comic. We both I think there was a bit of that where I was still
Mhm.
kind of overloading the page sometimes.
Yeah.
We were drawing. I got a guy to do. It's the first thing. It's called Edge of Darkness, and hopefully
Mhm.
that'll be out soon too. But
Awesome.
uh, yeah, he's doing great with it. But I paid him to do 6 pages, and I think I had to rewrite the script and basically take that and make it those 6 pages and turn them into like 7 or 8 because I was just overloading the page, and he kept going,
Mhm.
no. So there is an art to it. I mean, my first series I wrote 18 issues, and I basically just trimmed it down to 6.
Yeah.
There's a lot of learning to cut fat, and what really matters and what doesn't. Um,
Which can be hard because you have like the classic like Tales from the Crypt and the other EC comics where some of those like old school 1950s had a lot of dialogue with their artwork, but at the same time you as a writer is trying to make it where you're trying to write action for the artist to draw, and then it's trying to find a way to how to pace something
there's a
without the words.
trying to do comedy in a comic format is it's and I enjoy it, but it's
Mhm.
challenging because you have to take advantage of the panel, how many panels and turning the page and all that as part of your comedic timing.
Yeah, same thing with horror, like
Yeah,
trying to get a scare in a comic.
yeah, exactly. You have to be very careful with what you're doing.
Mhm.
I don't really believe in telling the artist too heavily what to do. I mean, I
Yeah.
describe what's happening, but it's more of in the terms of like a creative prompt than I want this picture
Mhm.
because I mean their contribution is really important, and they're there because they're good at the visual stuff, and I'm
Exactly.
on the keyboard because I'm not. So let them, let them. If you pick the right artist, you'll be happy with the results.
Mhm.
And if you're not, maybe you need to change artists. But Rachel's been awesome. She's the perfect artist for this, and she really rides that line of seriousness and comic. really, really well.
Awesome. And after you started like getting artists to draw on your comics and everything, has it been a lot easier? Like, I don't know how many times you work with Rachel, but like certain comic creators that I've had on the show, they'll stick with the same artist like on multiple projects. And it's like, okay, now I've worked with you twice. I could add like really strong like details and actions in my scenes because I know what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Uh, I mean, I this is the first project I've done with Rachel. I
Mhm.
think, well, hopefully SWAT will be a lot. I've
Yeah.
written 36 issues, and I'm currently 4 issues deep on the sequel. So she's got some work there, but I'd be happy to work with her again. I think we really vibe pretty well, where
Mhm.
she gets what I'm doing, and I can communicate with her, and she's able to really do a great job with it. So I'd be super happy to work with her again. I mean, the thing with well, isn't just artists, but in with comics, you want somebody who does good work
Mhm.
on time, and they're pleasant to work with,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
If
most
you get
definitely.
2 of those, you're pretty happy. If you get 1, sometimes you get 0.
Mhm.
Those are nightmares. I've had zeros before, and it's a giant waste of time and money. But when you get somebody who's 3 out of 3, you keep them in the stable,
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure.
With no reason to move. Um, like DC Hopkins is doing the lettering for all my stuff because I just have absolutely no reason to want to do anything else with anybody else because he's doing great work super fast, and you know he's fun to
Yeah,
work
I
with.
mean, that's the great thing I really love about comics that people are like, "Ah, I'm not that great of an artist," but, it's one of those things that you even if you're not a great artist, you could be a great, you know, colorist in that sense, or you could be a great writer, or people who are not like good at penciling, they're amazing at inking. It's one of the great things about being in comics. There's like some type of like creativeness that you could do there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to it,
Mhm.
absolutely, and I enjoy the collaborative aspect most of the time, as long as the
Yeah.
person is remotely responsive. It's
Mhm.
usually pretty good. I'm not really a taskmaster when it comes to the art. I'm usually pretty happy with it, but I got burned really bad the first guy I hired because he just and it was my fault because I should have known he just did not have it. Right, he was
Gotcha.
not the guy for this project. I'm not going to name names or anything, but he just did not. And so he spent 9 months not doing anything until it got pretty harsh. And then when he finally turned it out, it was awful.
That's
Uh,
bad.
so it was a
Sorry
waste
for
of a
that.
year and about $500, right? So,
Yeah.
it's a learning experience.
I mean, 500 is not that bad. I've had people that told me like I spent thousands so wasted. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. When you get the thing with artists is a lot of them are, not the most together people. So if you get the wrong one at
Mhm.
the wrong time, they can really go to crap. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's always a risk. The thing is, I'm not. I'm at the phase where I'm trying to do like 6-page pitch art. Right, I'm not looking
Mhm.
to do entire issues yet. So I'm not. I don't get too deep into them before I realize if the artist is any good or not. So
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the thing that I think is great with like Discord and social media, a lot of these upcoming people that want to take their hand on trying to do comics either as a writer or artist, the best thing for them to do now is to do like they did back in the days with like anthologies. Like if you're a writer or artist and you really want to try something out, do a 6-page story for an anthology. And if you like it and you're really enjoying it and you think you could do more, jump from 6 to 20, if you feel confident.
yeah, I mean that would be a great way to go. I mean, I did write a 5-page horror story as my first
Mhm.
script ever, but after that, I just hit. I
Yeah.
put in a lot of time with writing. I didn't just pick it up. And comics, God bless, is a lot easier than writing novels. So it was,
Oh, I bet.
you know,
Yeah.
uh, so I. But going back to the dialogue, I mean, to me, the dialogue is really, really important because it's the
Hmm.
only thing that the writer actually or the reader actually sees of me, right?
Yeah.
So it's just all the artists. So the dialogue's super important. I really want it to sound like humans are talking,
Hmm.
and so sometimes that involves saying and sometimes it involves profanity or whatever, but I'm trying to sound like people from Missouri.
I was just going to ask, where are you from?
Missouri. Yeah, I'm in Columbia, which is right in the
I
dead
know where
center.
Columbus is.
Oh, okay.
I I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri,
Oh, yeah.
and I was around the St. Anne area, so where the airport is and everything, not too far there. Then my father got sick, and he's like, I got to move back to the country. So we moved down to not where Columbia is, but I graduated from California High School in California, Missouri.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's by Jeff City, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So when I
Well,
saw the St. Louis, I'm like, is this person's from Missouri? I got to find out because now I'm located in Florida, but Missouri is my heart, and that's where it's always at, especially going camping in those Ozark Mountains. But I just had to ask. So,
yeah. I'm originally from Joplin, so I've kind
oh
of
yeah, yeah.
well, I've spent that yeah Joplin. So I spent
I
my
went to
life here, and
Yeah. I also went to State Fair Community College in Sedalia. So yeah,
yeah. No, my wife works in community colleges. She works for the Mobile Area Community College, so
gotcha.
yeah, I hear about them quite a bit.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so awesome. So two Missouri boys here. But yeah, so when you were transitioning from everything, like you said, from the novel to the comic, and you did that at 40, what really made you want to do that jump when you were doing the novels for so long?
Well, I had really struggled with and I mean, I would occasionally get the reaction that I want, you want as a writer, where people are like, "Ah."
Hmm.
But mostly I got and I think it's because I was trying to do comics in
Gotcha.
prose.
Hmm.
Because conceptually, a lot of the stuff I was doing back then just fits comics, where you're like, oh, that's amazing, but it's kind of hard to explain in a prose format. I think also, I don't know. I think maybe I was jumping around too much. The yeah. So I was just getting kind of tired of writing the novels because I felt like I was not. There was something I wasn't doing right. I wasn't
Gotcha.
the direction I wanted. And then I hit comics, and it just felt like everything fell into place. Right, like it's comics are completely free imaginatively. You can do whatever you want,
Hmm.
crazy as you want. You want a race of robot people with TV heads and dicks? Sure, let's do it.
Right.
um, but it's also extremely structured. So
Hmm.
you've got 21 pages, maybe 22. You got to get shit done. Right. So it was the kind of the perfect thing for me. It was the right mix of structure and freedom for me to get really weird with it.
Yeah.
Just bouncing around.
Oh yeah, for sure. And for like anybody out there, I asked this question around, but like since you started in novels and then into comics, for anybody watching live or afterwards, how hard was it for you to like start creating where like you said the writer is the dialogue, but besides adding ums and stuff like that, how did how difficult was it for you to like actually make each character in the comic sound different and sound and have their personalities come through the dialogue, because that could be difficult for new writers, that it seems like the same person's talking but on a different head.
Well, I hope I didn't do that. Um, you know, the, the over the course of like the time I was writing prose,
Hmm.
I kept tightening and tightening and tightening and tightening. Right. I
Yeah.
wanted to get to. I don't know if you know like James Elroy, LA Confidential, the
Okay.
Unnamed Trilogy, really
Gotcha. Yeah.
telegraphic prose style. Right.
Hmm.
Just tight as hell. I mean, it's kind of almost it's hard to read sometimes because it's so brutal. It's like Ernest Hemingway doing true crime, I guess.
Gotcha.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? But I really admired the precision of it, and so I kind of started imitating that. And I spent a lot of time drinking beer and listening to people talk, and so I just kind of used that
Hmm.
to inform the way that the characters talk. Now, of course, it's heightened right? You don't want to actually have a transcript of how people talk because that would be irritating to read.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's the version you would want to have said afterwards. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The idea, right? It's all the things you wish you would have said. So,
Awesome.
you know,
So with SWAT, besides that I have in the description, tell anybody that's watching exactly what SWAT is all about.
all right. SWAT is short for the Secret Wizard Assault Team, which is basically the Secret Wizard Assault Team. They operate in secret and they sort of manage the monsters that live in town.
Hmm.
Um, there's an arrangement where they have a certain number of hunting licenses basically a year. If they've got their tag, it's legit. If they don't, they will just dispense with the monster entirely.
Hmm.
Summary execution, and it starts with them having to do layoffs, and so instead of that, they just fabricate a red ball. And not fabricate. Well, they have a guy call in a complaint on a vampire where they know he's got a bunch of bodies buried in the yard to create a red ball where they can't fire anybody because they're too busy trying to solve this horrible crime. And then it just sort of spirals out from there in an ever increasingly chaotic disaster, basically.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome stuff. Now, exactly, was there anything special that gave you this idea straight off, or just you woke up one time like, man, I want to tell a story about this? Like,
Well,
what gave you inspiration from this?
I think J.K. Rowling was being an ass on Twitter, and that somehow or another it started as a kind of to her, and then it just went from there. So it's
Gotcha.
one of those things where I don't remember what the exact process was, but
Hmm.
I guess I saw the word SWAT and I went Harry Potter's Secret Wizard. Oh, and then it just blew up.
Yeah.
My creative process is not overly conscious. It mostly
Hmm.
bubbles around and the subconscious and comes out in weird ways.
Gotcha. And with you, you have monsters, you have comedy. Like, as a writer, does it feel easier for you to write action and suspense, or is it easier for you to write comedy? Because everybody has like their strong points and low points.
I prefer, I guess, I find my action scenes to be extremely short and extremely violent.
Gotcha.
I think an action scene should be one punch with a lot of meaning behind it rather
Hmm.
than Captain America punching 20 different anonymous people that we don't care about and will never see again. Right.
Right.
So I'd much rather have the old Star Wars style lightsaber battles where it's two old dudes sort of arthritically waving at each other, as long as it's
Hmm.
meaningful over, a 10-minute battle sequence. That's just my preference.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but I mean, with comics, you don't really. I mean, I remember this one, and then I'm talking ancient history here. Probably 1990. I didn't even know who Guy Gardner was, but I bought a Guy Gardner comic, and I want to say it was
Hmm.
#2, and it had 0 words. It was just a 20-page fight, and at the very end there was a single word. That's what I remember of it. So I still remember it. The art was amazing, but I most remember being irritated because I paid money for this. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know. I wanted something more than just a fight scene. Um, and that was just me. But yeah, I mean, I'm much more into. There's a lot of action, but it's typically very short, extremely brutal stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. You definitely need dialogue, but of course, there's like short films out there instead of like a 22-page book. But I feel like horror could get away with it depending on like the story of it. But yeah, most things definitely agree that you need the dialogue, you need the story, because again, that's the beautiful thing about comics is that you have storytelling and drawing come together as a beautiful couple.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if you want, I guess I feel like John Wick kind of handles the action angle. You should just be over there.
Yeah,
Movies are where if you want action movies, I love action movies like Terminator 2 or I'm
classic.
kind of really excited about the new Mad Max movie.
Yeah.
Just because I love Fury Road so much, and they're all.
Hmm.
I love all the Mad Max movies. So I'm not opposed to action, but definitely in a static genre, it doesn't seem like it seems like it should be in limited doses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Most definitely. So when you were writing this and everything, like how where do you usually go to find your artists? Because different people have like social media, they have like Facebook, Instagram.
Well, I usually there's a few places to troll. Um, I'm on a few Discord servers, and
Okay.
I actually found Rachel through kind of an ad that Brent Fisher posted. It was a guy, I think he works for Panda Barbs or something at this point. But there's comic book collabs on Reddit. I think that's where I found somehow or another. Yeah, I think I found Leonardo, my other artist, there. Definitely on Instagram though, but I
Mhm.
think I saw him there. So that would be two spots where you can probably find an artist. My advice though is make sure you really love it.
Yeah.
Don't hire somebody who're like, because it's like buying a house, right? If you're kind of
Mhm.
at the start, you're going to hate it after like a year, right?
Yeah.
All the flaws are going to come through. So if there's not like that joy at the start, don't.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that people are like, "Oh yeah, I'll make a comic. I'll get around to it." And then they just put it off and watch TV after they get home or whatnot, and then they fall asleep and then they'll do the whole thing again. Like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's work that's fun and rewarding if you really are into it and serious about it.
Yeah, I mean, I writing SWAT for me was genuinely. I mean, I honestly almost describe it as an honor in a weird way.
Mhm.
It was genuinely fun to do. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, so I mean, it's. I mean, that's. I think that's part of the problem with it, though, is because it's something that's fun. It's really easy. It's hard to make a living at jobs that actually people actually want to do. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
there's too much competition. Insurance actuaries are there for the cash, so there's not going to be anybody who's like, "I'll do it for $5 an hour." No, they want to get paid, right?
Mhm.
There's always going to be some artist, who wants to. This is their big shot, right?
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
undercut you, right? So it's hard to. It can be hard to do. I mean, it's hard to get attention.
Mhm.
It's hard to do a lot of things, and but it's worth it. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I seen that the website where people could sign up and everything. What chose you to go through that one instead of Kickstarter or anything like that?
Well, Zoop is curated, right? So
Mhm.
it's not just anyone. Anyone can sign up. So I like the fact that it's kind of indie comic specific, whereas Kickstarter's anybody. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's what I thought was interesting about it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it happens with you, but I know on a Facebook group that I'm part of a group of, someone had did a Kickstarter for their comic, and then a bunch of backers left out, and they were like out of $1,000 that they already spent because those people didn't want to, have the backing anymore for the comic and stuff.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, don't spend it until it's in your bank account, I
yeah,
guess. I
and
mean,
also for you with the campaign and everything, is it just going to be the comic, or are you planning to have more stuff out once it's published?
you mean like more levels of items for the campaign?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Rachel's going to have, she's going to do sketches for people.
Okay.
It can either be of the characters or whatever you want.
Hmm.
And there'll probably be we might add some other layers too at that point. At this point, I'm just getting, I'm pushing to get it to the point where it's going to launch, right?
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
because they want a certain level of interest before they do that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be launching sometime this summer, but the more of these I do, hopefully, the faster that happens.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
something especially like this, since how big you're saying that the world could be, it'll be cool to have some trading cards and stuff like that, or like
oh,
some. Yeah.
yeah, okay, that's interesting. Uh, yeah, I mean that sounds good. We can definitely look at that more later. I mean, having an interesting array of things would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that's not a bad plan actually. Okay,
I
well,
mean, who doesn't? I mean, who doesn't love like old school cards? I mean, I still have my Garbage Pail Kid cards.
yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll think about that. Yeah. That could
Yeah.
actually be a lot of fun. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see if it's financially feasible.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to have like the character's bio on the back like they did with some of the other cards later on. But most definitely something to think about. I mean, I like trading cards.
No, I like that. You could, yeah, okay. I'll think about that.
Yeah. Awesome. But so, with the comic book and everything and this stuff, what, like, you did fiction, but as a writer, what is your favorite type of like fiction to write? Is it just plainly action, comedy, horror? Because everybody has like their go-to.
Well, there's definitely, I think there's pretty consistently a lot of my stuff is horror. I mean,
Mhm.
even when I was writing prose, a lot of it had definitely at least had horror elements, usually fantasy elements as well.
Gotcha.
I'd say 40% fantasy, 40% horror, and 20% sci-fi. If I had to,
Okay.
kind of in that mix. Um, I guess this is the second comedic, and there are comedies in there as well. I did write a comic novel.
But horror and comedy go great together.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely fan of the genre.
Mhm.
What We Do in Shadows, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of that since the movie. That's been 10 years now.
Mhm.
But God, Cemetery Man, and there's all kinds of cool things in the genre.
Yeah.
The Night of the Living Dead. No, what's the one with the
Return.
Tarman?
Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, that one. That
Yep.
one's great. I've seen that several times.
Oh yeah. But do you have anything else to add on to your campaign, your comic before we get into more of the actual horror questions?
Uh, it's all we need at this point is for people to sign up, right?
And
They
I
can
have the link down below for people too.
yeah,
So people, show some love, sign up for anybody who's watching live or the replay,
yeah,
because, a lot of people that watch the show are like comic book creators themselves. And, we're all in here trying to work together at the same goal, but we're a community and we need to show support and love for each
yeah.
other. So go out there and, sign up.
I would definitely appreciate it, and it's every little bit helps. And SWAT, I think it's one of those things where people, when you talk to them about it or they hear the concept, they're like, "Wow, that sounds great."
Yeah.
But it's just one thing out of 60 million things that's happening on the internet, so it's
Mhm.
really been a challenge to get people focused on it at all. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
any sign up helps.
Yeah. I mean, not just the story, but even online, finding a good artist is important because, or even the novel, that cover page for like your book or your comic is everything. If they see some great artwork on the front of the comic, they're going to get interested before they even try to like read what the story's about. So it's key to have an artist that knows what they're doing and they're good at it.
Yeah, I think the cover for this issue is really fun. It's a reference, obviously, to The Usual Suspects.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Hmm.
but she executes well.
Yeah. So with horror movies and stuff like that, we'll start off with like, what was the first like horror movie that you ever seen?
Shoot. Well, I remember my dad watching Alien, and me walking in and being absolutely wigged out.
Yeah.
I didn't even see the alien. I just like it was the scene where she's setting the bomb.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
I was like having a panic attack, and I didn't have any idea what was going on with that. Um, Actual horror movie. I was pretty obsessed with Day of the Dead for a long
Yeah.
time.
And would
Uh,
that be your favorite, or what would be your favorite horror movie?
well, I think The Thing is probably
John. Oh man.
yeah. I mean,
I
it's
wish.
such
I
a
wish.
perfect movie.
I see. I love John Carpenter's The Thing so much, where because this show's been going on for 3 years, and for our second anniversary for the show, me and my co-host who couldn't be here got like 8 other comic book writers, and we talked 2 hours about The Thing.
It's a real good movie. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's
Like
perfect.
like
Honestly.
character design, like which one was your favorite character that you were upset who died, who was patient zero, who started it all, you know, and then I had a fun question at the end, who would win in a fight, the Thing or a xenomorph?
Mm. I think the Thing, you can't
Yeah.
really kill the xenomorph, can't really kill that thing.
Yeah, exactly. But then
So
at the same time, how does the Thing attach to xenomorph and trying to kill it with its acid blood?
hmm. Well, I guess yeah. I
Yeah.
guess
So that's a hard thing, you know.
that's not the worst Hollywood movie that's ever happened.
Yeah. But yeah, the Thing is outstanding, the best. Like it still holds up today, like the special, like the effects and everything.
Well, I mean that's the beauty of doing actual practical effects is they don't
Yeah.
age. They're going to look the same.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's even like I feel like that's kind of the case with Empire Strikes Back. I mean,
Yes,
the
exactly.
special
Like
effects
still my favorite.
yeah, but I mean, it's turned to the special effects on the original version. Not, I haven't even ever seen the special edition.
I
I think
haven't
they
either.
still hold up
Yeah,
because it was
for
actually
sure.
a TIE fighter. The only trick there was that it was very small.
Hmm.
So those hold up really well. Yoda not as much, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So, that would be your favorite movie, but as a writer and everything, now I get into like out of all the like 80s slashers, or not even 80s slashers, but like who was like the main character, not just as a kid, but as a writer? Because, growing up, people at the playground or grown adults are like, oh, Superman could kick Captain America's butt. Or, but as adults, we think like Jason could kill Leatherface, or something like that. But who is your favorite slasher of all time and why?
uh, well, I have to admit, I've been a huge slasher person.
Which
Uh,
nothing's wrong with that.
I feel like no, I just honestly don't really have one.
Mm.
Honestly, I mean,
See that?
I probably
Yeah,
wouldn't entirely sure which one's which.
yeah.
Uh, the only one I ever saw in the theater was I snuck into Halloween H2O.
Oh, okay.
It was out, and that was kind of crap.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that I not just as writing, but like people who are a fan of horror. I'm like, that's the beautiful thing about horror. You could have like horror slashers, horror sci-fi outer space, horror supernatural, horror like noir stories. So, you know, everybody has their own taste in favorite of horror or even just the writing. Like I know people who are not big in like the whole slasher gimmick, but they like writing horror stories that has to do with space. That's more like suspense instead of the whole gore and blood.
I love zombies. That would be
Yeah,
my horror thing. Like if there
gotcha.
was one I had to keep. I mean, I think I have a Blu-ray copy of Day of the Dead over in
Hmm.
the other room. Um, I watched all of those so many times. I
Yeah.
mean, all the Romero movies. Well, all the good. I watched all of them at least once. I watched pre '90s many, many,
Hmm.
many, many times.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a whole flaw to the zombie genre uh, that causes a lot of repetitive writing. Uh,
Well,
so
yeah, it's like when my body hurts and I'm around someone and I'm trying to get up. It's like, oh, rigor mortis is setting in. Little Return of the Dead joke there.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just they're not that. I love them to death, but they're not very good monsters, and that's the problem.
Oh
Is they're
no,
too stupid.
yeah,
So you always have to bring a human in to actually provide some drama,
yeah,
and so it always bothered me when they just brought in and Dawn of the Dead how that motorcycle gang just shows up and they're like,
hmm,
you know what, let's suicidally attack this mall.
yeah.
We don't really have any reason to, but we got to end the movie, so let's do it. I mean that was
Besides,
no,
yeah, besides Return of the Dead, was there any other like horror movie comedies out there that really piqued your interest?
oh god. Well, I mean, What We Do in Shadows is amazing.
Yeah,
I love that.
Like, I'm a big Killer Clowns from Outer Space guy.
That is a movie that I saw ads for on HBO when my
Mhm.
parents would take me to hotels,
Yeah.
but I never got around to seeing it. What are some other ones? There's the Cornetto trilogy. What's the zombie one there? Uh,
Uh, I had to think about it.
yeah, the British guys.
But
Uh,
another one that's really big, like if you were in like 80s or 90s and they even made a cartoon series out of it, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's another one. I remember seeing that vividly in the store, but I
Mhm.
never quite got it. Because it was a weird time. But let's see. I'm going to look at them. I did not appreciate Scary Movie very much, I got to say.
Yeah, okay.
Let's.
Okay. Because that
I
was more of a comedy than a horror.
Yeah, Tucker and Dale versus Eel. Yeah, that one's great.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Um, yeah, Shaun of the Dead. That's what we were talking
Oh
about.
yeah, Shaun Dead. That's amazing. I really enjoyed that one.
Are the Lost Boys considered? Google
Horror?
thinks
Yeah.
Lost Boys is horror comedy. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the Lost Boys are great. I mean, the Lost Boys are is one of those vampire movies I could literally like watch the movie and know line by line.
Yeah.
And my sister has like the did she have the vinyl record or the CD of the soundtrack because it has a great soundtrack to that movie as well.
Mm. Tremors.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Tremors.
I'm looking at Google because I'm really bad at lists. Um, but Zombieland, I watched that many times. That one's
Hmm.
good. The sequel was okay. Yeah,
Yeah, the first one was definitely like gold there.
yeah, it was kind of like Super Troopers 2, where
Yeah.
they were clearly there for the paycheck, so that's
Hmm.
fine. It happens.
So you weren't big on slashers, but were you really big on creatures features like Pumpkinhead and stuff like that, where it wasn't like more of like a slasher, but more of like a terrifying monster.
I love sci-fi horror, so like
Hmm.
Aliens was. I guess that's not really a horror movie. I was weirdly fixated with Alien 3 for a long time,
Oh yeah,
which I think is underrated, but it's
it
also.
it definitely is. I mean, I was upset when the girl died, but I mean, I understand the whole concept. You really don't want like a little girl in prison with a bunch of men that haven't seen any type of woman around for a long time.
Well, I thought was that it, or did she just not want to do it? I thought she quit acting.
Or maybe, I don't know. Like, but
I
at the
think it was
same time, they
mostly.
could have got someone else to do it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I I don't know. I guess Lance Henriksen was only available for a weekend, and then
Hmm.
they just got rid of her. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what I don't. I want to say that she quit acting, but that whole production was messed up. Like that was
Yeah.
like the third script, and the second time they tried to film it or something like that. So it was kind
Hmm.
of desperation times. So they whittled it down, but it still had a lot of really interesting stuff. Charles Dutton. I mean, that's why I know his name.
Yeah.
Uh, and they had a whole cast of people that I thought were doing really great performances. So
Hmm.
uh, I kind of it's definitely an offbeat one. It's the last Alien movie I'd show somebody, but I watched that thing a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
God, what else? What's that sci-fi movie from the '90s where they go to space and then they find a portal to hell?
Deep Horizon.
Yeah, that one. That one was a little. Actually, I watched that a couple of times, but that was a little bit too much. I think eventually, or I
Yeah.
just I don't really like people in pain. I don't like torture. Any. So that's kind of limiting, I guess, on the horror front. That's probably why I'm not too into slashers, is because
I
people.
was going to ask, like, with your like horror comic writing, like, how far are you willing to go with your writing? Some people are like, oh, not that far. Some people are like, yeah, I like more suspense instead of like the gore aspect with my writing.
Well, I mean, well, it's spoiler alert, I guess. Who
Yeah.
cares? For instance, there's this a character who has become. I've changed the mythology of vampires a little bit.
Hmm.
So he's a thrall, but the thing with thralls is they obey the vampire for a while, but if they keep eating and they keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger until they can actually kick the vampire's ass.
Gotcha.
Right. So this guy, he doesn't know that yet, and so he's in this shitty hotel. He's trying to get some sleep. He gets attacked by the hotel staff because they are robbers, and he just accidentally bites one of them, and it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And he just starts eating them, right, and just kills them all, and then he carts them out in bits, right. So it can get pretty, it's not Hello Kitty Adventure Island sometimes, but I don't know. I don't glory in torture. Yes,
No, definitely understand. Like I'm, sure I watch a lot of 80s horror and stuff like that, but I'm not big on like the whole torture porn of horror. Like if you have a scene where it's just gore, torture, and nudity, and there's really no storytelling on why you're doing this, just getting a shock value, then you don't have my win. Like I need storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me too. I never understood the appeal. Like, was it the Hostel movies where they
yeah
put people in a hotel or something?
And then don't get me started on Human Centipede. I hate that movie.
I did not even try it because no.
Yeah.
So it's I'm more in the What We Do in Shadows pool of I mean it can get brutal, but it's not trying to be. It's not cruel, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not trying to be.
Well, and also another question, since you're not big on that, but if you had a favorite classic, like Universal's monster, who would be your favorite? Like Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein.
Yeah, I've actually written a whole novel about him.
On who?
Not the thing, but I mean Frankenstein himself.
Yeah.
And I will hopefully end up doing an adaptation, adapting that novel. I guess it called an adaptation when you never actually published the novel, but using that to for a comic, because it's one of those. It was originally intended to be a comic, but I was too cheap to pay an artist, so I just wrote it instead.
Yeah, I mean, Frankenstein's monster is my favorite too, just for the fact that it's more of a tragedy than a horror movie in a way. That literally this person is made up of different body parts, and it's like, if I'm playing the piano, do I know how to play the piano or the hands that are attached to my body?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. It has been a long time since I saw the Marvel, which one was the one with it was like a sequel, wasn't it, to Frankenstein with, I think it was Bride of Frankenstein. We got all like the little people in the jars and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but a lot of it had a lot of vivid imagery. I mean, what I like about Frankenstein is more the book version, where he's extremely talkative, kind of weirdo, actually. But yeah.
And I don't know if you might know this artist, but like Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein, amazing design. You should check that out if you don't know who that is. But he's Bernie Wrightson.
The new they're doing the Marvel movie universe in comics. James Tynion's Dracula's out, and the collected edition now. That thing's amazing. It's definitely worth looking at. The art alone, I mean, like Renfield's depiction in that is, alone, but it was quite good.
Speaking of Marvel stuff, did you actually watch Werewolf by Night?
No. What is? I know that character from Snap, the card game.
Yeah,
but that would be it.
Yeah, like Werewolf. Yeah, they had Werewolf by Night, and Disney also did their version of Man Thing, which was really cool. Like their version of Swamp Thing.
Yeah, I mean, I should check that out. The Alan Moore Swamp Thing was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah,
I mean that's older, but wow, yeah, no, Bernie Wrightson's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, Bernie Wrightson, he is also the main person who like really designed Swamp Thing's design for DC. So yeah. Like the second one, Frankenstein Alive, we did a review here, and it tells more of his dialogue. But like the first one, him and who was it? I think the first book, him and Stephen King worked on the first one, and then he did his own things that afterwards. But yeah, I definitely recommend Bertie Wrightson's like artwork and the story, just because someone who like really loves Frankenstein, I think you would enjoy it a lot.
I don't know how we've been talking about horror this long and I hadn't brought up Stephen King. Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah.
I mean, The Stand for me, I mean, I was probably the only person rereading that during the pandemic, but
It's a good read. I mean,
it's great stuff. I mean, he has a really he's able to
I even listen on audio books.
yeah, well, yeah, I don't do audiobooks because they're too slow, but for me, but yeah, man, I mean, the way he can just get you hooked on a character like that.
Oh yeah.
And then they're vivid,
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a lot. I mean, well, yeah, he's very talented, obviously, because he sold like 60 gazillion books, I guess.
Now, would you say that Stan is your favorite book of Stephen King?
Is that or It?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I reread The Stand more often, but The Stand is the kind of book where one time when I was in college and I had absolutely nothing to do, and this was before smartphones. So when I mean I had nothing to do, I meant I have nothing to do. I read like 950 pages of that in a day.
Yeah.
Right. And it flows, it's a really easy read. It is also great, but it's really good. But the whole climax in the sewer thing, it's like,
did you feel that the remake did a better job with the whole spider?
I have to admit, I did. I watched the first one. I didn't watch the second one.
Gotcha.
I'm not worried about the spider as much as the sex crime.
Yeah.
Like the whole orgy in the sewer.
Yeah.
What are you doing, man? Like, don't.
Well, that's why I don't think you'll ever see a movie that actually depicts that scene.
Because it's a sex crime.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right? If you filmed that, you would go to jail. It's bad. In them and Game of Thrones has made me realize that, like, if the climax of your story is a sex crime in Arkansas, change it.
Yeah,
because it's gross. Whether it's incest or underage gangbangs, let's just not, right? But it's weirdly common.
Yeah,
and it kind of spoils it a little bit, I think. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, not so much with it. I mean, it's not great, but it's not like off-putting. But I think I have a whole theory about why Game of Thrones went to shit, and it's because Jon Snow's a Targaryen.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, imagine it, right? Like if he was just Ned Stark's bastard son. What's the ending of that? From the end of the Winterfell battle.
Now, what people don't know, that's unlike the movies, a lot of the books are connected with Stephen King stories.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah, like what's the one where the people are fighting against the aliens? Is that the top? It's not called the Tommy Knockers, is it?
Oh well, maybe. Yeah. That was his later stuff. I got a little spotty after Rose Matter.
Yeah, but I know, but I know it was like it took place not far away from Derry, and it has to be like one of his earlier ones because they were fighting the aliens. Then after they destroy the aliens, they were driving through Derry, and apparently the little kid in the car saw a clown in the sewers with glowing white eyes, but he didn't think anything about it because he was probably hallucinating because of the whole alien invasion that he was part of. And what was it? You ever watch Dreamcatcher?
I haven't seen that one, but that was 2001 though.
Yeah. So yeah, in his books, not in the movies, but in the books, they have a lot of references with the other characters.
Yeah, I definitely know Randall Flagg's a repeating character, and then it all ties into the Dark Tower stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this sounds bad. I mean, Stephen King's great and everything, but I really do feel like once he stopped doing cocaine and drinking, he really.
That's what a lot of people think.
It got it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it got. He was after about 1990. I feel like it was just sort of the same thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
Repeated a little bit,
Hmm.
but then again, I haven't really read anything of his for quite a while that wasn't from the 80s or
Yeah.
70s. Salem's Lot's pretty great.
Yeah.
That holds up.
Well, we're at the 50 mark. I don't think I have anything else to ask, but it was awesome to have you on, Justin. And, if you have any other work to promote in the future, you're more than welcome to come on. Or, once sometimes too, if I can't find a new guest to promote, I just have returning guests to come on and talk about like random, like horror topics, like a favorite movie, just a genre of movies or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back. If I have your email, I'll shoot you my other project. And you can take a look at it and see what you think.
Yeah, after the show's in, I'll shoot you my email in the private chats.
Okay.
But
All right.
thank you, everybody. Anybody who's going to be watching later on, appreciate it. And click on the link and show them some support and love. I mean, it's from what I've seen and everything, it's really great. So everybody have a good night. See y'all next time.
See ya.